What's up, good people? What's up, good people? It's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., and y'all know what it is. It's third Monday. So here we are, the first third Monday of 2023, and I'm starting off. And I don't know about y'all, but I know y'all gonna get it once I finish talking with this young man. Y'all gonna get it why this starting off 2023 with this young man is such a pleasure and an honor for me, but it's going to be a honor and a pleasure for you because I know this conversation that we about to have. All I'm going to tell y'all is y'all need to grab your notebook, your pad, pen, any and everything that you can write with. You want to have that with you because starting off 2023, y'all know my mission, my purpose, I always tell y'all is to make you better by the end of the year than you were at the beginning of the year. And the way that we do that is by bringing you people, knowledge, information, and resources that will allow you to be able to do that. In today's conversation here on the Brand New Development Series, brought to you by JNF Enterprises and Black Professional Men Incorporated, is no different. We are starting off 2023 full throttle, engines blasting, and ready to go. And this young man, and I'm not going to introduce him. I'm gonna allow him to introduce himself. Y'all know that's how I do, because I want him. We're going to get into our conversation, but I'm gonna allow him to introduce himself. Tell us just a little bit about who he is, what he does, and then we're going to get into this rich conversation that I'm looking forward to. And this is none other than Mr. CEO, and I'm gonna ask him about that. We got Mr. CEO from
Mhm.
Chris Holder,
Awesome,
who is.
awesome.
So, Chris, thank you for joining me, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming on. I want to welcome you to the Brand New Development Series show, and we appreciate you. And I want you to just, if you can, just start off, if you could, by introducing yourself to everyone and telling us just a little bit about who you are and what you do.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. I always appreciate an opportunity to share space with a brother and just talk about some of the things that we probably both been through. Maybe I always like to say we may not have been connected directly through the same mother, but pretty much our mothers went through the same thing, so we
Woo!
connected. So just glad to be here. So CEO Chris Holder, I am the CEO and founder of CEO Chris Holder LLC and the $100 million Run Group. So that is a community that we created to help individuals who are looking to make and or save 6 or 7 figures in any business model. So we literally help entrepreneurs, business owners, doesn't matter what it is. If you have an idea, we take you from idea to 6 and 7 figures in your bank account to learning how to invest it, so on and so forth, so that you can achieve whatever goals God has for you. So whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, we want to get the money part out of the way so that we can see who you truly are. So that's just the quick version of all the things that I do.
I love that. I love that, the Cliff Notes version. But we'll talk about, honestly. We'll talk about, hopefully, a little bit, those are the things that some of those things that you mentioned, and a few other things too that that I know that we'll come to learn about you as we go along in the conversation. But I'd like to start this conversation by asking you this: what got you started on your entrepreneurship journey? Because entrepreneurship isn't for everybody,
Yeah.
and everybody doesn't actually start out as an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
But what was it that got you started on your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, that's a simple answer. My parents. My father was a business owner. My mother did the traditional route, so I got to see both routes. But my mother also did some entrepreneur things on the side. But then as I got older, my mom became way more entrepreneurial
Okay.
than my father. So where my father was the one that stepped out, he'd own farms, he'd own gold mines, he'd own
Mm,
clubs, he'd own all this because I'm Guyanese, just so so I'm
okay.
Guyanese, so that's where I came from. So it was a little different over there. You can have a gold mine in that country, you can't have a gold mine in the U.S. and so my parents were the driving force. So I was able to see that early, and because they kind of helped me hone it, they didn't really deter me from becoming an entrepreneur. I was able to like test things out and really learn the ropes, which is actually the same thing I'm teaching my daughter to do right now.
Now, let me ask you about that. Growing up with having parents that were both entrepreneurial and regular and I guess
Yeah.
secular. What kind of impact did that have on you growing up? What kind of influence did that have on you, especially seeing your father being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur? What was
Yeah.
that
It was actually really hard for me
like?
because when you're young, you don't understand why your dad's not there.
Mm, mm,
So I don't understand why dad can't be here to play. Why is
yeah,
dad gone for 2 months?
yeah,
Why is, so you just want the physical person there. So the hardest part as a kid was being able to have that not be explained to me. So my parents was like, he's too young, he's not going to remember these things. So we don't need to actually explain to him that daddy's catching a flight for the business that pays for this lifestyle that you have, where there's a
yeah,
roof over your head and food. So you don't put those things together because when you're born into it, you come used to just expecting it. So I would say that to me was probably the hardest thing about being a kid learning, saying like, wow, because then you start to put a list of
mm,
things you're not interested in. You start to say, well, when I become
mm.
this, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. You don't really know what you're saying. You just know what you don't like, the feeling of what you didn't like. So yeah, so that would be the if I were to tell anyone as you're building an entrepreneur, I think most entrepreneurs go through that where they feel the guilt. My
Yeah.
dad had zero guilt. Okay, my dad was like, listen, we got the food on this table. You suck it up, get it together. He was very, very on top of it. He wasn't that soft. Nah, my dad wasn't soft at all. I'm so thankful to have had my father here with me for a lot of the years of my life to help stabilize me. And when I look at the world today, I don't see fathers like my own. They don't build them like that no more. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad that I was able to have that, so I could provide a version of that type of strong male figure, for my children too.
Let me ask you, as an entrepreneur, and then now that you are a father and you have a
Yeah.
daughter, and you do that, do you find yourself trying to give that balance? Because a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand the sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
that comes with wanting to be. I mean, and I think about, and I don't know if you've ever read his book, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
He had such a mindset of being the one of the greatest basketball players ever,
Yeah.
that one of the sacrifices was his daughter, was his family.
Yeah.
His family had to sacrifice. And I even think about Tom Brady with what he has gone through
Yeah.
with he had given so much of his life to what he wanted
Yeah.
to do, that there wasn't this balance.
Yeah.
And your dad, you talked about with your dad, saying, hey, I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah.
And then one of the sacrifices of that is not being there for my kids altogether.
Yeah.
What was that like? And
Um,
then how have you used that now with your daughter, with your family?
yeah. So I think the difference is the difference in time.
Mm,
Back then, a lot of the things had to be done in person. Had my
mm.
dad
Right.
been
Truth is,
building, I give you an example. We're doing this right now.
yeah.
Had this been my father, I would have had to come to you. We would have had to
Uh-huh.
gone into a studio. We would have had my physical presence would have been gone. You think about it, a night like tonight, maybe an hour, 2 or 3 of travel, another hour or
Yeah.
two of the interview, another hour of just hanging after the interview. So that's a whole night. Kids go to
Yeah.
bed, they miss dad, they don't get to hang with me. But today's time, I'm able to just say, "Hey, baby, I'll be back. I'm going in another room. I'll go. I'm about to do this interview. What's the interview about, Daddy? Oh, we're talking about business. Da, 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 da. You want to listen? You want to? Because it's right here, right?
Yeah.
So the only time my daughter is ever impacted is when I do have to travel, but she gets to see it. Hey, Daddy's
Mm.
on. You can look at it on the Zoom. Hey, you can look at it on the phone, so she can visually see what I'm actually doing and see the work that I'm putting in. Whereas my father, I didn't have that luxury. I just saw the fruits of his labor, right? I saw the what he did for my mom, how he made certain things available. So I think with today's time, we're blessed to be in a time where entrepreneurs, if what I tell entrepreneurs to do is pick the schedule you want to have for the week. Like pick your life. Like if you enjoy, like me, I love playing basketball. So I still play basketball.
Mm.
I like to get a good workout in here or there. I like to spend time with my daughter. I like to be around when I'm putting my kids to bed. I like to hang out with my wife after a certain time in the day, right? So there's this whole process. So once I put that together for the week, this is my schedule for the week. Then what I do is I put my work around that time.
Gotcha.
So I don't create the work schedule and then fit life into it. I create my life schedule and then fit in work around it.
Wow. Wow. And I think most entrepreneurs do
Because
like
they don't realize that the times have changed. I mean, look, now this thing here does more damage than anything else. So why would I not become more efficient with the time? But it's about enjoying life. The one thing that I realize is we're working hard now as entrepreneurs to buy time. That's all money creates. The more money we make, the more time we can buy back. Right. And that's really what it's about. The less time you have, that means your money is impacted. So I always wanted to make sure that I had that balance.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that. And now, like you said, your daughter gets to not only know that dad does X, Y, and Z, she can actually be a part of that.
Correct.
And see it, because one of the things that I remember, my dad was a phys ed teacher. He was a high school football coach, basketball coach, track coach, and all of those things. And some of the most memorable times that I have was being able to go to the school that he taught high school at, that he coached at. I was that little boy on the sidelines, running up and down the sideline with him at work. So I got to see what he did, and also participated in it too, because I was doing little things on the sideline or whatever, telling him this or whatever or whatever. And to this day, I lie to you not, Chris, I still have some of his students that remember my face. Don't ask me how, but remember my face. Say, "Aren't you Mr. McKenzie's son?" And I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, I remember him from, he was a great coach back when I was in high school. I was like, man. So the impact that you have in being able to have your daughter be a part of that, man, is powerful.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It is a work in progress every day, because today's time, where I believe I'm giving so much time because I didn't get any of this time, right? So from what my father had to what I had, it was night and day. But my family wasn't there for that. So in their brain, I'm not available. Daddy's not around. I'm like, I'm literally in the next room. So it becomes, right? So here's where today's challenge is. Today's challenge is being present.
Yeah.
So you can physically be there, but you're not mentally or emotionally present for the situation that's happening. So I've been working extremely hard on working on being present, working on actually scheduling things just for me and my daughter. Obviously, my son, he's 2, so he really doesn't care what's going on right now. But it's starting to find those things that I can say, yeah, me and my daughter did that. So right now we have she likes Legos, so we'll build Legos. I got a year membership at our Legoland, so that's something that we're going to be looking to do more. But also, she started a business, so that's something that we just really kicked off. So I'm going to be, obviously, that's something that I know will allow us to build more. And she has something tangible. Like, well, did your dad spend time with you? It's like, I don't know. We built a whole business together, so I'm guessing we spent time together. So I'm doing everything I can, and I don't expect anyone to understand it, because who's supposed to really understand your entrepreneur journey except for you? You know what I'm saying? And then on the back end, at the end of everything, is when everybody goes, I guess that makes sense what you did, because I didn't see it at first, but now looking at the fruits of your labor,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I said the same thing about Kobe Bryant, because I was not a Kobe Bryant fan when he was playing. I was like, he's one of the most selfish, just kind of egotistical dudes that you ever met. But once he retired and he started to open up a little more, and I got to see some of his interviews, and he talked a little bit more, and even reading his book really opened my eyes to what his way of thinking. And like you were just saying, everybody that his vision wasn't for everybody else to see.
Yeah.
It was his vision for how he knew he wanted his life to be out and play out and everything like that. So that's really huge, and I really like that. So let me ask you this: if you had to describe one, if you had to use one word that would describe your entrepreneurship journey, what would it be?
Consistency.
Mm.
I've learned that the idea of, I don't know, it was a cartoon or something, but you're trying to knock down this major wall. You're not going to hit everywhere.
Right.
You're going to hit one area consistently until it opens up. So that's what I would say.
And I like that. And can you talk a little bit about how people how does one, and I like the word that you use, how does one build consistency? Because everybody has a plan in the at the beginning of the year. Like right now, everybody's in the gym. Everybody has the weight loss program, or they're going to do this and they want to do this for their business. But how do you build that consistency throughout, one, your journey, but then let's just take it from year to year. How do you build consistency throughout the year for yourself?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you develop consistency through developing good habits. I think a lot of people have developed a lot of bad habits. So those bad habits have turned into the consistency that people start to put together. So I think for me, I started looking at what the activities that I needed to produce look like. And I started looking at what the successful people in the spaces that I was looking to be in, what were they doing? What were their schedules? Now, my schedule is a lot more intense than the average person.
Okay.
But I get more done than the average person because of the way I think. So for me, I don't look at when people say I don't see time the same way. Okay. So I tell people all the time, like I don't have 3 or 4 days. When people tell me let's do it in a week, they don't understand what that sounds like to someone like me. I think about how much I'm going to get done in that week. So when someone says, oh yeah, we'll do it next week, I'm like, bro, you know how much I'm going to get? I'm not going to be interested in a week from now. So we got to put some things in place. So what I started to develop was just discipline on not wasting time. Yeah. So I wouldn't spend hours on Instagram or hours on YouTube. And like, if I wasn't pouring in positiveness, there was a limit to how much garbage I was going to take in. Right. Because whatever you study, whatever you focus on daily is what you're going to produce. Now, I see the day as three days in one. Okay. So let me give you this concept. So from 6 a.m. to noon, that's one day to me. From noon to 6 p.m., that's a second day. And from 6 p.m. to midnight. So when we started at 6 o'clock today, that was the third day for me. So I've already gone through 3 days. So when the average person is fighting for one day, right? At the end of a week, 1 week, for me, I would have completed 21 days of activity in my life, right?
Wow.
So now when someone says, oh man, Chris is moving so much fast, it's not that I'm moving so much faster than you, it's just that I'm shortening my day one. So Monday is only 6 hours on that day. I'm already on to Tuesday once I get to noon. I'm already on to Wednesday once it's about, you see now each day, right, is a little different, right? So now the evening time, I might only have X amount of time because I'm going to sleep. Right. I might only have X amount of time because I'm doing this. So I've developed a system for me that's allowed me to maximize my hours. So I can look at each time. So, okay, so I might say, okay, so from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., I'm going to work. But once I get in my house, like that portion of the day, I can't work as hard as the first 2 days. You see it? Because I had 2 days of, so you're telling me I can't chill out a little bit on day 3 for the family, even though it's in the same day, right? So I try to get so much done that by the time I get home, I can be present, make sure that I'm there. And then I get up at 6 o'clock and I hit it hard. Boom, 6 o'clock, 6 to noon. That's all knocked out. Noon to 6, that's all knocked out. By the time I get to 6, I'm like, all right, it is what it is. So yeah.
No, and that's, and I mean, and I hate to keep going back to this, but I read, and I don't know where you got your concept from, but in reading, one of the books that I read last year was Kobe Bryant's The Mamba Mentality, and one of the interviews that I watched was he talked about his routine. His goal was to be one of the greatest basketball players ever.
Yeah,
and he studied the other NBA players. He said,
Yeah.
well, most NBA players have a routine. They have a schedule. They 8 o'clock, they this to 8 to 10, this 12, like you were just talking about. He said, in order for me to maximize his time and to get more workouts in,
Yeah.
he had a routine where he said, okay, if I start, I think he started his day at 4,
Mm-hmm.
like from 4 to 6, he would do X, like you were saying, come back from
Yeah.
8 to 10, he would do X, then 12 to, he was doing that kind of insane
Yeah.
schedule that you do. But that's, to me, that's what makes the great. You're willing to do those things that even good people, even a good, person that wants to work and everything like that, isn't willing to necessarily do or even see,
Yeah.
and say, you know what, how did he get 3 days in one? What kind of
Mm-hmm.
work? What is he doing
Yeah.
that's getting 3 days in one? What kind of work is he doing to be able to get 3 days in
Yeah.
one? But that's part of that sacrifice that I think that happens, because you understand, hey, this is what it's going to take for me. Now, like you said, it's not for everybody. It's not for,
Yeah.
it's not for everybody, and everybody isn't going to say, you know what, I can have that kind of schedule. But for those that are willing to do that kind of work in that kind of way, they will, I'm sure, say, okay, I can have the same results as Chris does.
Well, let
Or
me start
no,
there, right?
yeah.
Just to jump in. So nobody can have the same results I'm gonna have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing. I try to tell people right out of the gate, stop comparing yourself to everybody else.
Gotcha.
You'll
Mm-hmm.
never be me. I'll never be you, because your results might dwarf mine.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So when we start putting limitations on ourselves as entrepreneurs based on the entrepreneur before us, we forget that they also were paving their own way and didn't really know how fast or how slow they were going to go. They're just letting you know it was possible. So what I always try to tell people is set your own time clock, because you can do something even more amazing if you allow it, right? So I always try to tell people is just valuing time. See, we can't control time. We can
Yep.
just manage the time that we've been given. And all we do control is from when I close my eyes to when I open my eyes and when I close my eyes again. That cycle, that's all I have. So if I'm trying to, take full impact of being here, I'm going to make sure that most of those hours are not going to be wasted.
Yeah, and to me, that's the key. Like you said, is understanding. Hey, these are the, because all of us get. And I remember, gentleman years ago. His name, I forgot his name, but he came and spoke in my church. But he talked about we all get 168, and that's from the
Yeah.
richest man in the world to someone that maybe all of us only
Yeah.
get 168. There's no more, no less. You can't add to it. You can't subtract from it. So I think that's powerful. I think that's powerful, and cool. Can you tell me? I want you to just if you could tell
Yeah.
the audience, just a little bit about your company, your business, and
Okay.
then what you do, kind of what you do.
Yeah. So the business itself, like I said, it's a community that we created. So the $100 Million Run Group is the community. The business CEO, Chris Holder LLC, that's actually the consultation and the coaching portion, right? The strategy, the mentorship. So that's where I come in, and I get to look at a situation and determine where in business does it fit. So the services we provide are all business based, right? So we provide anything that someone needs to help their business grow. So we do seminars. We do it through seminars and monthly calls. So we cover things like your business plan, business funding, developing a brand, developing marketing, customer retention. So we do the entire process, how to, pricing. And we walk through individuals through quarterly check-ins. So we almost act as your CFO, in reference to checking in every 90 days on what the numbers were, but then what worked, what didn't work, what we need to get rid of, things of that nature. And what we do here is we provide the incubation stage help all the way up to the growth help. So if your business is doing between 25 and under, we have something structured for that. 50 and under, structured for that. And if your business has cracked 100,000 or even over 1 million, we have things structured for that. Then we take you into the investor route. So we have a whole journey to guide the person so they don't have to go outside of the community to get the help. Right. So where we come in is we get to sit down, we get to organize with those individuals and really break down what their businesses need or what their ideas need to get into the next level. Where we differ is we provide real resources. So after we give you all the structure, what our special sauce is obviously our strategy and all that stuff, but our accountability system and our resources. So we give you all the stuff you need here. That's one pillar. So now you got everything you need. But what happens to everybody? We all got the same information to an extent, right? It may be packaged different and organized this and whatever. But at the end of the day, we're all pretty much using the same information and adjusting it. The next step is how do we get that information to be applied into your life and your business, right? That's where the actual resources come in, where we show you, we walk you through it. We give you the resource. Call him up for your website, call her up for taxes, call him up. So we literally are giving you the additional piece to that. And then finally, we're holding you accountable. So the accountability pillars where we're checking in on a daily and monthly basis, weekly basis, sending out texts, sending out emails, letting you know that they're get-togethers to come back around. Then we have the big conference that we do once a year, our Wealth Explosion, where we get together and really celebrate all the work that has been done while also learning how to get to the next level. So it's a full circle business model with services, resources, and accountability to help people get there. So we've been able to help over 1,000 people reach that 6 or 7 figure mark working with us since we've started. So we're really proud of that because that was our original goal. And now, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and I love that, and I want that'll take me right into what I was going to ask you. How did you come up with the title, the $100 million run, and then if you can talk a little bit about what that is and what that entails for people that might be interested in that.
Yeah, so I have always been and had a passion for people and helping people, and I felt that when I'm developing business models, one of the things that I teach individuals like, what's your mission? People will get behind a mission. People will get behind a cause.
Yeah.
And I started thinking like, well, what was my mission that I could make it tangible? So it started out as like the $1 million run. That was like the first idea. And I was like, it didn't really work. And, to get 1 million, I don't need 100 people. So I kind of said I wanted to stretch myself, and I really prayed about it, and it just kind of came one day. I was doing something and it was like, yeah, we're going to help 1,000 people make 6 figures. That's where it started. It was like, we're going to help 1,000 people just make 6 figures. Then we would amass $100 million in what we call growth revenue. That means that everybody was there and that revenue is within our community. Then if you had a business or something that you needed help from, you could come back to this same community because we have $100 million of new revenue right here, and find some of the partnerships from people you've already connected with who will be willing to listen to you, not be as harsh on your business plan, because they know what you've been doing. They've been there on those calls. They've seen you at the events, right? And that's where it started. And then we started cracking 7-figure people like fast, right? Because they were already at the 6-figure mark. So it was, they took a couple of concepts. There was 7 figures right overnight. So we said, okay, so that became our focus. Like, we're going to help 1,000 or more people make or save 6 or 7 figures in any model that they want to build it out on. Because what we have learned is business principles are the same. People are the issue. People are the issue. So I was like, well, it doesn't matter what business model you bring to me if you don't understand your brand, if you don't understand your marketing, if you don't understand your pricing, if you don't, there's just certain things, if you just don't know, it doesn't matter. But if we can fix all those things, you can have as much success as the person that you're thinking you're competing with.
Yeah. And that's huge, because the principles, like you said, and not only do they work, I think, across the board. When you have solid principles across the board, I also believe that no matter the the economics of the time, if you stick into those principles, the principles will allow you to be able to to navigate through those, whether it's an economic downturn, or whether it's, whether you're doing well and you understand, hey, this isn't going to last, so I got to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do order to be able to, because some people get caught up, if they don't have the foundation and those core principles that they stick to, they wind up blowing the
Blowing
money
it.
or losing the money at
Yeah.
that time, and that's what you don't want to happen. Can you talk about the mission? Because you talked about you mentioned it, but and I saw this on your website. You said you wanted your mission was to take 1,000. It was 1,000 people to make 6 or 7 figures.
Yeah.
And doing that, and then you broke it down even for each. You had a category. You had 1,000 to 7 figures, and then on top of that, can you talk about that as well? The other layers that you had on that as well.
So basically, the idea of it is to obviously we can tell people go right to the website and look at that stuff. So what I want to do is get people to understand. So the idea is that everyone's in a different level.
Right.
And what we do is we tier you based on where you are. That's why we say we start from 0 all the way up. So we have a strategy in place from 0 to 1,000, 1,000 to 20,000, 20,000 to 50,000, 50,000 to 100,000. And how that's structured is based on where you are. You kind of come in and we have checklists that you go through. Once we go through those checklists, we can see exactly where you fall and go, okay, start right here. Like, it's not complicated. It doesn't matter what your situation is. Literally, once you answer that, we can put you in either one and then say, okay, great. Here's your starting point. Get going and let's see how we can help you achieve that goal.
Wow. And I love that. I love that. Now, to me, as I was reading about your, or trying to grasp the $1 million run, and I was thinking that this is a mindset. Is that what it boils down to? That it's a mindset for those that want to say, hey, I want to achieve these type of goals, or I want to be able to accomplish these types of things within my business?
Yeah, I definitely think, I mean, obviously a mindset is a part of it, because that's kind of the easy way to answer that. Most people's like, well, you got to have the right mindset, and that'll get you there. Sometimes you could have the wrong mindset and still get there with the right opportunity, the right price, and the right product. I mean, I know a lot of people who they just kind of stumbled into being millionaires because they got the right product. Look at some of the products that people ended up buying that went viral. That had nothing to do with the right mindset or anything like that, right? But what I can say, having the right mindset allows you to create tougher skin for when things don't go your way. Because that's the quitting part. The mindset is what keeps you from quitting before it happens. So when your mindset is in the right place, you can go through a lot of losses, a lot of failure, as some people may say, and just say, all right, tomorrow, today was a bad day, but tomorrow's a better day, right? That's what the mindset is. You could be going through some of the worst situations in your life and go, this is temporary. It's not permanent, right? And that's a mindset, right? Whereas someone who doesn't have that mindset, the first time they get hit in the stomach or the first time they get that punch in their business, they said, I knew this wasn't for me. I'm done. This is over. This is
well, I'm gonna do something else. Let's try something else.
Yeah. And the same thing happens, and they just keep going through that same cycle.
Absolutely, man. If you can, for the listeners, if you could, and viewers, I'd like for you to give what are your 3 keys to living and achieving your $1 million run way of journey on that journey. What are 3 keys to accomplishing what it is that like you've given those people that want to achieve the 7 figures? What are 3 keys to them being successful?
So I guess the best way to look at it is, would you say, what are the 3 keys for anyone to make $1 million? Or we're talking about the people who have already made $1 million and they're trying to stay at $1 million? Which one would you?
Let's start with to make $1 million. Let's start there because they may not be at that level yet. So let's take it there, and then how to sustain it, because it is a thing. You can make $1 million, but how not to lose it though too. I think that's important as well too.
So I think the biggest thing is making sure that you actually know why you want $1 million. Like I always ask people, if God gave you $1 million today, break down to me where it's going. And most people do not have a realistic breakdown of where that's going to go. They don't factor in taxes. They don't factor in none of that stuff. They just say, I'm going to buy real estate. That's what you're going to get. That's the best somebody can give you. And they've never done real estate. And there's nothing stopping them from getting into the real estate game right now. It's just a mentality. So, so I always start by asking people, why do you need to make it? What makes you getting $1 million change? What does that change in your life? Okay, typically what that changes is housing for most people. So they increase housing costs, vehicles. So transportation, all of a sudden their vehicle situation changes. No more taking the bus or driving that Camry. Now they need the luxury, right? Food, expensive trips. So those are typically the 4 things that people normally do with $1 million. So the first thing I would tell individuals to do is to determine how that money is going to be spent to grow. How is that going to be spent to grow? And I think the biggest thing, if I were to say the 3 things I would look at, is staying away from greed. That's one. Don't get greedy.
Yeah.
Next, when you make it, take 1 year off from changing anything. So as soon as you get it, right? Let's say right now you're at that place. Don't change your situation at all for 1 year. Think about that. Think about that. How hard,
I like that.
How hard would it be for someone who struggled to start seeing 10, 20, 30,000 for a month, and you're telling them, don't change anything.
Right.
Give it, see what happens. See what happens. How long can you hold out? And so I would say don't change anything for that year. And the last one is always seek wiser counsel than you. When you look at your phone log on a weekly basis, if you're talking to more people who are not at the level that you are on your way back to where you just came from.
Ooh.
So
say that one more time.
If you look at so you go on your phone logs, you look at the call history, and you start looking at, because it'll tell you who are the favorites. It'll tell you who the people you're talking to the most.
Right.
And I want you to look at those people's incomes. I want you to look at what those people are doing with their lives, their investments, their marriages, their travel life, what they drive. Look at that person. I want you to recognize that if those are the people you're going to be speaking with, they're giving you counsel without you even asking for it, because you're having conversation with them. They're living through you. But what that means is you're not learning things to go beyond where you are now. So what's going to happen there is, by continuing to not talk to people that are more successful, you will eventually be right back to where you left and trying to figure out, how did I get back here? But you're talking to the same people. Haven't changed your circle. So those would be 3 things. Watch out for greed. Is a big one, because greed comes in so many different forms, right? Like, do you need that car? Do you need that? You know what I'm saying? Do I need that shirt, those pants? Do I need those shoes, that bag? Yeah. $5,000. Yeah. Like, no, like I wear, if anyone pays attention, what I've learned is I've branded myself. So pretty much I'm wearing something, my website's on it, my hat. So whenever someone sees me, I'm identifiable. They go, oh yeah, that's that guy, Chris. I think that's the color of his shirt. I think that's the guy with the hat. So they see it enough and they go, that's dope. And then what people start saying is, I like that shirt. Where can I get it? I like that. Because think about it, why do people buy clothes? They want to identify with someone or something. Right. So it's important that you determine that. So I stopped buying clothes. I started making my own clothes. Oh, okay. I'm spending on, and I'm not talking about crazy clothes. I'm wearing jeans, my t-shirt, my hat, maybe a hoodie, you know what I'm saying? Regular, but when I'm out there, I'm sparking conversations around my family's last name, so that's important to me, so that this way I'm not running around wearing Louis Vuitton for somebody I never met. I'm not wearing Gucci for somebody that don't care about me and my family. Like, I don't know these people. Yeah. But I've been conditioned growing up to believe that that's a status that I need to have, instead of making myself the status. I've walked into I'll give you a quick story why this was important. Is I remember I went to my first major speaking event. This is where I went from charging $500 to speak, and this is my first $5,000 speaking engagement. So you could imagine, I'm like, $5,000 for 1 hour. I just couldn't believe it. I was in a different world, but I also was still identifying who I was in reference to, like, are you really who you are? Like, are you really like which version of Chris are they going to get? Are they going to get the one who feels he needs to present certain things that's not really who he is, or are they going to get the other version? And that was a battle, man. And I remember going to the mall, and I remember going into Ferragamo and Brooks Brothers, and I'm going on to these stores, and I'm looking at the prices. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's $1,000. So I'm looking, I'm like, wait, I'm about to spend this money in here. I'm about to lose all the money I'm about to get for the speaking engagement, trying to dress up for it. And then I just started thinking, man, I was like, man, who are these people?
Mm-hmm.
I just stopped, and I was like, man, they've been used to, you know, they give you the year of those companies. I mean, 1840 something. I'm like, man, they've been making money for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, is this for status? So I said, all right, cool. So then I remember that night, this was in Miami, to give you an example. And there was a dinner at a really high-end place. So at that time, I had a friend that was down there, and he had one of those little those kiosks that make t-shirts in the mall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I said, hey man, can you put together a really nice shirt that has a really solid message, that is something like this, but not this finished version, but it had the thing, it looked good. And I said, yeah, I'm going to wear this to my event. You know, I'm going to get some black jeans. I'm going to get a black shirt. Can you make a hat for me? So I at least have that. I went to the barber. I got boom. And I said, I get a blazer, get a black blazer. So this way I was like, all right, so at least I'm like good. But then I said, I'm going to wear the blazer, but then I'm taking it off as soon as I get in there. You get what I'm saying? Like I'm wearing the blazer. And I walked into this place, and obviously everyone's dressed suit and tie. And I'm walking, and everyone's like, who's this? Looking around. And then the guy says, yeah, excuse me, sir. They were like, I mean, it's good, but it's not what we want. And they said, well, can you tell me a little, you know, we have a dress code. I said, hey, I'm a designer. These are my clothes. I'm a designer. They go, oh, you're a designer. Oh, we're sorry. We didn't know that. Please come in. Right. And I was like, that worked. I mean, if you saw this place, and then what happened blew my mind, because then everyone started asking, how do you get in here dressed like that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's a designer. Really? A designer?
Mm-hmm.
What does he design? What type of? And then people started coming to my table. I'm eating by myself. The owner of the restaurant comes to the table. Hey, sir, we're so happy to have you. We normally don't have designers come here. And I was like, yeah, I designed for the minority community, you know, talk about wealth. I'm actually down here to speak in this particular establishment in about 4 hours. So they brought me in here to speak. So then it was like, oh man, sir, such and such from table 9 sent you a bottle of champagne. You know, excited to have you here at our establishment. And you got to understand, I went to the mall, spent $30 on a shirt, picked up a pair of $20 black jeans, and I picked up a $30 blazer from Macy's. You know, so black. I'm ready to go. Only thing I had on was black shoes, and those were Alfanis. You know what I'm saying? Those Macy's all over, bro. But the confidence behind it, like, hey, what makes Louis Vuitton clothing better than mine? I'm a designer. Well, I got my own clientele. I got my own. Y'all should. So it changed my perspective early. I had already knew that, right? I was already doing things like that. But something was like, this is the version of me. So I think for entrepreneurs, I'm like, be okay with who you are. There's a large community that wants that version of you, not the version you think you need to be. So, you know, in the beginning, when you're starting out, you're still identifying who you are. So yes, you wear the full suits and all that other stuff. But when I started thinking about some of the most successful people, they wore their own clothes. They have t-shirt, jeans. I mean, I see Mark Zuckerberg pulled up to a corporate meeting, literally in a t-shirt with a hot dog stain on it, and could care less. And everyone in there is like, yes, sir. Okay. And I'm like, okay. So you got to own the room. So you own the room, however that is. Now, if it is a suit and tie, right? If it's a 3-piece suit, that's your brand. That's who you are. Just walk in it. Walk in whatever that is, and you'll get the best response out of the people that are there to hear from you.
Yeah, and I love that, because I think about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs would do his meetings, jeans, shirt, tennis shoes, simple.
Yeah.
Nothing ever, you know, was ever, I mean, he was very, and a lot of people like that are very simplistic when it comes to, you know, like you're saying, when it comes to the dress. But it's like you said, but they are comfortable with being who they are. and comfortable within their skin, and knowing that, hey, it's not about how many. And I saw this question one time, or actually from the movie Baby Boy, how many millionaires are you wearing?
Yeah.
How many millionaires are you wearing? What you're making millionaires out of people, and as opposed to saying, you know what, hey, I know I am who I am, and I'm not standing there to try and impress someone with, with the suit that I got on, because like you said, you could have a $5,000 suit on, and the information that you be given to someone not be worth the $5,000 that that they spent on that you spent on the suit and everything like that. So I think that's that's vital, that we understand as entrepreneurs. You got to be authentically you. And I think when you walk in, like you said, when you walk in that room and you understand, and I say it like this: I belong here.
Yeah.
I belong there. I'm supposed to be here. This is who I am, what I do, and you walk with that confidence. You shift the whole atmosphere, like you did just in that restaurant. You shifted that whole atmosphere just by understanding who you are, and being confident in who you are and what you do. Let me ask you this, because I read your book, and I told you I was going to bring it up. Hopefully they can see it. Tips to Success. But one of the things that I believe and I got from you being very passionate about is the community. And giving back. Can you talk about how important it is for entrepreneurs to assist in being able to shift the community, and then how important it is for entrepreneurs to be engaged in the community that they are part of?
Yeah, I think that's the only way to stay level, to stay humble, to never get caught up in BS and greed and all that, is to never leave. Not saying moving. You definitely got to move out your situation. Because when you come home, you should be inspired, okay, not tired. You know what I'm saying? Like that's important. But what I'm talking about is when you come to give back, these are people that they just need someone to believe in them the way you needed someone to believe in you. So by giving back, you can give back with, from your business in so many different ways. So the idea comes back to, how does your version of giving back impact the people around you? Because those people will bring you more people. They will go tell the story of the person. Whenever people see me at certain things, I still do a lot of stuff with the homeless, because most people didn't know, like, I was homeless at one point. And that never left me, but I also understood that situation for a lot of people a little differently, coming from that being a part of my story, and being able to take that and say, I'm going to turn this into something for everybody. And then what I get now is I get a lot of people who are in that situation come up to me, hey, Chris, man, that was my situation. And hearing you, I feel comfortable talking about it, because that was an embarrassing time for me as well, right? Because I mean, you're out here, you're homeless, you're trying to do all this stuff, and then you start thinking about all the negatives and you don't want to tell people that, because you think people are going to look down on you, but then you go, no, I got to turn this story into profit. I remember saying that. I forgot who was the person that said, turn something into profit. And I just remember saying, yeah, I got to turn this story into some kind of profit for me. What does that story look like? So just working in the community, and then your own, because your own people need you, right? So I always like to say, you can give a general message, but there's certain things that are cultural, right? If I were Indian, if I were Russian, if I was German, and I'm speaking to a German audience, there's going to be certain jokes that we understand as Germans, right? If I'm Caribbean, right, there's certain patois and all those different things that we're going to be able to connect with. So I also understand the struggle more detail, because I was inside that struggle. So I always like to say, you want to work in the community that you live in, for sure, because you are there. But you also want to work in the community that you are from, because they are going to connect with you. They're going to hold on to you tighter, and they're going to want to see you win, because they're going to say, hey, every time I meet someone and they're like, wait, you're Guyanese? I'm telling you, the smiles on their face, how proud they are that someone from their country, right? It's like, man, he's from my country. I can believe that we can do that. Someone who's not from my country, they're like, he's from a third world country and he did that. I'm here. I mean, I got all, what's my excuse? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's always important to tell the story and impact the people who will understand your story more so than anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Real quick, because I got like two more questions, but
yeah,
I want you to talk about your book, Tips to Success, because
yeah,
like I told you, this is I'm just about finished, and it's a power packed book,
I
man.
appreciate that.
And I want you to tell people one just a little bit about it. Of course, we're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
giving y'all
yeah.
information. Y'all gonna have to go to the
Yeah, yeah,
website to
yeah.
get the to get the book. But what made you want to write the book first? But then two,
So,
a little bit about just a little bit about it.
yes, let me tell you some quick history in the book. I wrote that book in one day.
Did you? Oh wow.
Bro, my wife is the proof. She was there. She wasn't at the time, but she's, we were dating. And I remember knocking that out. I just sat down one day and I just kept writing. I just kept writing. It was in my head. But what happened was my sister, my oldest sister, her husband passed away. And when he passed away, it happened abruptly. We were all shocked. It was like 1 minute, we were talking to him, and a couple hours after talking to him, we get a phone call from a detective that he had passed away. So it was just like, and at the time, his son, his youngest son, Ethan, my nephew, he was just born a couple days before that. So he had a new son. He had his old, another son, Daniel, who was only a couple years older. And I just thought about those boys not having that presence, not having him there. And I'm like, man, they're never going to get to know him. Yeah. But then my sister said, he just published a book. And I was like, really? So I was like, wait, so they'll get a chance to just hear something, to learn. It's like they have a piece of the person. Yeah. They can say, this was my father. And they can read those stories. And I said, man, if I pass away today, how anybody even know I was here? Like it just hit me like, I'm thinking really hard, like, wait, I don't have a movie. I'm just going through all this stuff. I don't. I'm like, no, they are going to know Chris Holder was here. And that's where Tips of Success came from. I said, I'm going to create a book that one day, if I'm blessed to have children, that my grandkids and everybody can say, man, there was a Holder that wrote a book. And, I was blessed that the book also became a #1 bestseller on top of that. So it was dope, but that's where the book came from. And it's really tips to help individuals become extremely successful, not as entrepreneurs, but as people from my story. That's the quick version. You guys got to get the details. Yeah. It is a book that you can check in every 90 days. If you read that book every 90 days, I guarantee you'll be answering those questions a little differently because it's supposed to be worked. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it is working. Like you said, when you mentioned earlier, when we were talking about how to create that consistency in you, if you're doing the tips that you talk about in the book, you got to go get the book in order to know what those things are. But that's right. Build those consistencies, like you said, every 90 days, and it's that easy to read, where you can literally read this book in 1 day, 2 days at 1 or 2 days, and you'll be done with it. Or not done with it, but you can complete it, and then picking it back up throughout, let's say 3 months, 6 months, or whatever. It will definitely be something that you will want to go back to again and again and again and again. I promise you, it's that good. So, last question before I want you to give your contact information, how people can connect with you, is what advice with the beginning of 2023. Chris, so what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur or even an entrepreneur that is on their journey and wants to go to that next level? What advice would you have for them or give to them going into 2023 and beyond?
I would say always pay attention to trends. Pay attention to what's happening. Know if your business is outdated. Know when you need to update. Joint ventures are everything. Even doing something like this, connecting with other communities to get the word out, all that stuff matters. I would say that's where a lot of people drop the ball. They don't do joint ventures, so they just kind of stick to the same community. So I would say if you're trying to grow your business super fast, get exposure, so get some kind of media exposure, or if you're not able to do that, joint ventures is the key.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I say that too. Joint ventures, partnerships, collaborations is one of the biggest ways to be able to move your business very quickly. And then the last thing, I want you to give, if you could, give your contact information where people can buy the book, where they can connect with you if they want to be a part of the $100 million
Yeah,
run.
that's
Had to
right.
go to they want to
That's
do
right.
they want to do those things. How can they, or even have you
Yeah.
come and speak as well too?
Yeah, for sure. So if they go right to the website or they can Google me, CEOChrisHolder.com, www.ceoChrisHolder.com. All the information is there. And then when you get the book, you also get access to all of our free calls. We do about 100 free calls a month that you get access to just by picking the book up, which I think is a ridiculous value for what we're giving just to be a part of it. But that's my way of also giving back to the community, right? Taking away the excuse, like, hey, let's get you reading, and then let's start holding you accountable on a weekly basis. So I would say that that's where, someone can really make an impact and a change. So when they go to the website, they're going to see a part that says get the free training. They fill that information out, they buy the book, and then they just send us back an email showing proof of purchase. And then we add them to the list, and, we go from there.
Absolutely, absolutely, y'all. And I'm proof. I've gone through the process, so it is something that is that simple for you. And I promise you, you will be better by the end of the year than you are here at the beginning of the year when you pick this book up and you connect with this young man right here, Mr. Chris Holder, Mr. CEO himself. Brother, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking time out to come and talk with me, having this conversation, this brand new conversation, and be able to talk with entrepreneurs, not just on a business level, professional level, but also on the personal level. Because I love that balance that you had with what you do, because it gives people that professional mindset that they need, or professional way of being able to do things, but also the personal side. And that's what Brand You does. We deal with the personal and the professional aspect of individuals, because we want you to be both be professionally better, and we want you to be personally better as well too. So thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you joining us and being with us. I certainly appreciate you being with me and being able to hear you speak, not just in the other places that we're connected, but being able to have this conversation with you, man.
Sure.
It's really I'm so appreciative of it, because you could have done anything else on a Monday night, like you said. I know you got your week, but I appreciate you taking time out to be able to talk with me. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Brand New Development Series with your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder. We will be back right here again next month when we come to be able to talk to you again. We'll have another brand new conversation for you. We look to have you come back. We look forward to be able to seeing you, hearing you, and we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great evening.